Hi, this is Henri Paul from BlackHawk, and you're in the Grooveyard with Tom Grooms.
We're on location with Henri Paul from BlackHawk, and as the government enters its 20th day of the shutdown, the BlackHawk flies down from the mountain into the nation's capital. Welcome back.
It's great to be here as always, and a room with as much musical history as this is, always a delight to play, and they treat us well. As a matter of fact, we just finished soundcheck and had dinner, and we're all fat and happy.
Well, that's all that matters. You're a freeborn man, still doing that freeborn jam.
You bet. You bet. We wrote a check. We wrote two different checks. BlackHawk's charity of choice is the Van Stevenson Memorial Cancer Research Fund, which we've funded for the last 15 years and raised over $300,000 for Vanderbilt's Cancer Research Lab. And then the Outlaws, under my leadership, starting in 2009 or 2010, I believe, we started funding Music Cares, and we wrote Music Cares a $25,000 check this year. So the Outlaws are knocking on $100,000 in the last few years, and BlackHawk, which has been doing that for a while, is almost over $250,000. So, we're just trying to have fun with this music and really put a respectful musical face on brands that are worthy of our attention and commitment.
You're in the Grooveyard. I'm Tom Grooms. With us, outlaw Henri Paul, and member of BlackHawk. And you were there for the country rock revolution and the country rock evolution as we stand here in 2019. Happy New Year.
Thank you. And, BlackHawk's an exciting musical brand for me. I mean, the Outlaws have a very storied past, and we have a new album that is absolutely incredible coming out later this year on the Outlaws. But BlackHawk has a more, for me, a little bit more of a peek into the future from the standpoint of my musical affection. And both bands are sensational, and both musical personalities are deeply loved and cared for. So, it's great to be me these days.
No doubt about it. And I must say, ladies and gentlemen, the version or rendition of Bluebird, you knocked it out of the park, because Joe Walsh and the James Gang did it. Yes, even tried a Buffalo Springfield tune.
Well, thanks. That was an idea that my son, little Henry, brought to me, because at that time we were playing with my old friend from Birmingham, Anthony Crawford. And Anthony's guitar style was somewhat reminiscent to a degree of Stephen Stills's. And I thought the vocal on that record was really quite cool, the arrangement. And I tell you this much, it was a rather weighted undertaking. And I thought we did a good job of putting our own stamp on it and making it really, really good.
I do want to say I saw you at the Birchmere. Billy Crane opened up for you. Mm-hmm. Tremendous band. Of course, it's a family affair, ladies and gentlemen. Sly Stone's not the only guy with that patent. Mm-hmm. And I want to say 1977, Bobby Whitlock came into the studio. He says, "See that little guy over there? That's Billy Crane. He's a 20-year-old picker in a 40-year-old body. Mm-hmm. He's got George Harrison, Stephen Stills, and Eric Clapton scared." Mm-hmm. Go on YouTube and check it out. And as I saw you a couple months ago, I knew what Bobby was talking about. Yeah. Incredible.
He really is. And, Billy and his brother Tommy, who's no longer with us, they grew up at the altar of the Allman Brothers, and they learned those licks, and they worshiped that musical moment. And he and I went on to do great things with the Henri Paul Band and the Outlaws later. And I was just down at Billy's a couple days ago. He and I and Dale were writing a new song for the new Outlaws album, and he's a delightful man. And I would say Billy is in the top 10 players in America. I just think he's that special.
People should definitely check him out. You're in the Grooveyard. I'm Tom Grooms. Our guest, Henri Paul. BlackHawkLive.com is a place you want to go to find out what's happening with BlackHawk, right?
That's right, and it keeps our tour schedule up there. They're the same usual suspects as websites do, but listen, after 20-plus years this will be 25 years for BlackHawk, and for the Outlaws, we're pushing 46 years. To have these brands out making really good, relevant new music, putting on great shows every night. You know, it's something that I'm very proud of, and we work very hard at it. And so, you know, we're just happy to be here after all this time.
Definitely, and you and Dave are doing a great job. And we have a new album or CD coming out. I still call them records.
Right. Well, we have a brand new Christmas record that we finished a little bit late to release last year, so we're coming with that this year. It's a gorgeous Christmas record, all traditional music done acoustically with contemporary arrangements and three-part harmony throughout.
Who's with you in 2019 in BlackHawk? Because we lost Van, as we mentioned.
Right.
And you're such a... what can I say? You were on the bus. I met you in Leesburg, and you stopped the tour to do a charity for the Loudoun County Community Center. Remember about, I don't know how many years ago, and told me that's what moved you. Your heart brought you into that town.
Well, we've already had our youthful ambitions satisfied from the standpoint of success. I mean, we're not millionaires, rich people, but we've realized a number of our dreams, and now, for me, it's more about communing with our fan base, trying to give back a little bit to the people who are less fortunate, and maintaining an abiding affection and respect for the music.
Who's in the band?
So we have, and by the way, both bands are represented by the same group. BlackHawk and the Outlaws now consist of Dale Oliver on lead guitar, Steve Grisham on lead guitar, Dave Robbins, of course, on keyboards, Jaron Sorensen on drums, Monty Yoho, who's been on medical leave for a while, is coming back on drums. So we're going to have two drummers again. Randy Threet on bass, and that is a 7-piece group. It's a big band. And they represent the BlackHawk musical personality with, you know, care and respect, and the Outlaws, forget it. It's just an ass whipping. It's lights out.
I'm glad Bonnie's coming back. In Leesburg, we had to call his mama because she lost her cat or something, remember?
Right, I do remember. Yeah, and Monty has struggled mightily since August. And to be quite honest with you, I mean, I did not think that he was going to pull up. And to his brother's credit, Robbie came up to Nashville and spent 10 days with his brother. And his brother is a medical doctor, a retired Air Force medical doctor, and got money into all the right places and got all the right questions answered, and wound up having, you know, a great deal of success and a significant hand in helping Monty out.
That's wonderful. Henri Paul's with us. He's on tour with BlackHawk. Check him out in 2019. BlackHawkLive.com is the website. Outlaws website is still the same, right?
Yeah, outlawsmusic.com.
And I did say you went through the revolution and the evolution with the Outlaws, with the Henri Paul Band, and now with BlackHawk. And just keep on keeping on. Any advice for aspiring musicians who want to put on a cowboy hat and become a country western star?
Well, I think it's important to take inventory of your talent and to try and keep a realistic view of your goals. Sometimes people stick around too long. They don't have enough to get the job done. So if you really know that you have the talent and you're really honest with yourself, I think that inner voice will keep you on the right path till you realize your dreams.
Brothers of the Southland, and I got to say, Glenn Yarborough is happy with "Baby the Rain Must Fall."
Yeah. Well, you know, and a different song, but
of course.
I have to admit, when we wrote that song, it was all I could think of was Yarborough's version. You know, of course, I'm an old folkie, so it resonated with me.
People might not know, you are from upstate New York originally.
That's right.
And he also knew the Nightbird, Allison Steele. But the world has gone mad, and it had to be upstate New York to make us aware of this. You're familiar with the Wait Band. They have an album out called World Gone Mad, and they'll be playing this venue too.
In 1970, when those guys were making such an enormous impression with music from Big Pink and the second record, I forget the name of it, the brown, a sepia and white, the band. I mean, we all were just absolutely enamored by the second generation beats, you know, and their poetry. Bob Dylan and Robbie and Lee Vaughn and of course Rick Danko and Garth and Richard Manuel, bless his sweetheart. And we were enormously affected by their music, and they had a profound impact on the American popular music landscape. So we're, to this day, you know, indebted to him. And when I was a kid driving my tractor around the fields in Cena, you know, I always kept an eye out for one of the guys in the band or Bob Dylan on his motorcycle, and it was kind of cool to be that close to that much greatness.
I drove up the day before New Year's for Rick Danko's birthday. We've been celebrating it for 20 years now since he's passed.
Mm-hmm, yeah, well, and Rick was one of my favorites. He and I got to know one another briefly before he died, and I don't know, I was a big fan of his. He was the handsome sort of, I don't know, to me, the focal point of the group, my favorite member, and, you know, Levon was, of course, a great singer and drummer, but Rick was my guy.
Well, next time you got to come downtown, come to our studio and play some tunes. But before we get out of here, play whatever you want from BlackHawk, and thank you for doing what you're doing. I know Hank Williams would be proud. You named your son Hank, and a lot of people don't know who Hank is. That's what scares me.
Well, you know, it's generational, and we come from a place long ago and far away. But there's still plenty of great new music being made, and I have high hopes for the future for Southern rock and for country music eventually. Right now it's going through a little bit of a, you know, a bit of a manipulated time frame with regard to the label's agenda, but they'll get through it.
You got that right. Thank you so much. Have a great tour. Be safe on the road, and we'll see you next time.
Good to see you, sir. Hey, happy holidays to everybody from myself, Henri Paul, and the group BlackHawk. Hope you have a rockin' New Year.
From the hills they came, from backwoods without a name, carrying the guitars and a heart full of Southern soul.